podcast. I'm Cody Carpentier, joined by the Trashman. There's no Alex Dunlap today as he's out at his kid's career day, telling everyone that he's a YouTuber because that's what he is. Trashman, we're back today to talk about 8 players in Dynasty Fantasy Football that we want to buy right now because rookie season is here. It's right now. The NFL draft was a few weeks ago. So everyone's getting through their Dynasty rookie drafts if they're degenerates. And then you get into the phase of the offseason where you're buying and selling and building that roster and getting it right in shape for the 2024 season. So we're going to talk about 8 players that we want to buy going into the season. Trashman, how you doing?
I can't complain. Are we talking about rookies or are we just talking about players?
Just players. Just
Okay.
Players.
I didn't know if it was a trap.
No. Yeah, we tried to do the reverse from a couple weeks ago. We said rookies and then no, we're back. Dynasty buys, so all veterans or rookies or whatever you want to talk about. But we're gonna have 8 guys today to break down. Trashman, I'll let you kick it off first with a buy heading into the season.
Okay, first off, I got Keenan Allen. Now of the Bears, I think a lot of people are kind of sleeping on Keenan because it's could be considered a crowded receiver core there with Moore and Odunze there as well. But I mean, Allen's coming off a career high, 108 catches. He's in his 30s, but he hasn't really been slowing down. Kind of his skill set doesn't require him to be an amazing athlete. I think with a young quarterback who needs safety blankets, Allen is the perfect prescription for that. I think he's going to have another gangbusters type of season, regardless of who else is on that wide receiver core there in Chicago.
When you look at that receiving core, obviously Caleb Williams is gonna rise all the tides or rise all the boats. I say, with Odunze and with DJ Moore, there, you worried potentially about 2025, or are you just thinking about 2024? Because the Keenan Allen thing, that the talent was never a question. The abilities, the PPR monster, all those things. Rome feels like he could potentially be in a spot like JSN was last year, but do you trust Keenan Allen in 2025? Are you nervous about that at all?
I've never not trusted Keenan Allen. There are a few players who I've trusted more than Keenan Allen in fantasy for the past decade. Until he shows me signs of slowing down, I'm going to keep trusting. I mean, like I said, coming off a career high in catches. I don't know what really more needs to be said in that regard.
All right, I'm going to go to stay at the wide receiver position, but I'm going to go to a younger guy, and this one is built specifically around the fact that I did a price check on him over on Player Profile. They have a trade finder tool across all these leagues, safe leagues. Every league that if you create a trade on MFL, it gets put into their system. And I did a price check on him, and I was kind of caught off guard, if I'm being honest. CeeDee Lamb, who about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, moved him to my Dynasty wide receiver 1. I just nudged him ahead of Justin Jefferson. And these guys are just months apart in age. Lamb is a little bit younger. And I'm seeing price checks on him the last week. This is a Superflex tight end premium league on safe leagues. CeeDee Lamb went for a first and second round pick in 2025, rookie pick. This is a standard scoring 12-team league. Lamb and 2 third-round picks for the 110 in this year's draft. This guy's 25 years old. He's coming off of what you just said with Keenan Allen, a career year, and it's only gotten better each of the last 4 years in the NFL. 935 yards, 1,100, 1,300, 1,700, and they didn't really address the receiver position in the NFL draft. And I know it's like, well, these are supposed to be, buys. Maybe they're not high-profile guys, but this one's right in front of us, screaming 200 targets, screaming like it's Brandon Cooks. They drafted Ryan Flournoy. There's rumors of Zay Jones coming in there. Like, I'm not worried about any of these guys. There's a little inkling of worry with this Dak Prescott thing. If Prescott does not get re-upped and they end up having to draft a quarterback next year, that could throw a little bit of flux into it, but it's no different than really what Jefferson just went through up in Minnesota, losing Kirk Cousins and now getting J.J. McCarthy. When I see the trade assets that it would take to get a CeeDee Lamb right now, I would give up the 110 to go get a Lamb and 3 third-round picks. It doesn't make any sense to me. Kyler Murray head up for CeeDee Lamb in a super flex league is another one that came out. Travis Etienne plus Drake London for CeeDee Lamb. That feels like a little more in line. 106 and 209 for CeeDee Lamb. These are all over the course of the last 7 days. It seems a little cheap for me to get CeeDee Lamb. So I feel like I'm in line with CeeDee Lamb as a big buy heading into the season. I just think it's, if somebody was to be teed up, this guy's going to be wide receiver 1 this year. It feels like CeeDee Lamb's that guy.
Okay. All right. I don't know how low you're going to be able to get Lamb. But I mean, I guess you could consider him a buy lower than usual.
I didn't say low. I definitely didn't say low, but I'm just going buy. And the fact that I found this, like, I literally was just a price check on it. I was like, man, I really want to get some Lamb. I wonder what the area is at. It's like, I guess technically, like, for me, 110 for Lamb and 2/3, like, that's low. But I also don't think that he's in a buy low phase because he's, like I said, coming off of a career year.
Yeah, that's fair. Another guy I'm buying low on right now, or lower, is Tai Spears. We know that the Titans view him and Pollard as pretty much interchangeable. I mean, if you look at their skill sets, they're kind of interchangeable too. I would argue that Spears might be a little bit better of a pass catcher, or at least has been used more as a pass catcher than Pollard. So I feel like if we're talking about interchangeable players, we're talking about a player who's younger, a player who's been on that team longer, been in that offense, I mean, with that quarterback longer. Why not buy a little bit, why not buy into Spears instead of a Pollard who is coming off, for all intents and purposes, a down year in Dallas as the lead back there?
When you look at the 2024 season, Trashman, Pollard and Spears, what, I know we're not really in the projection season yet where we're working on seasonal rankings, but if you had to just eyeball or guess it right now, what kind of the split looks like, how would you feel about the split going into 2024 between Pollard and Spears?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a 55-45 or 60-40.
More carries to Pollard?
More
probably.
Carries to Pollard. Yeah.
Yeah, and then more of the backfield work to Spears. I kind of like that. I'm just going to move this guy up the list because it's the same team. I'm going to go to the quarterback position. Everybody knows how much I love Will Levis. We talked about this on the show the other day. You don't love the Tennessee offense quite as much, but they have spent the draft capital out on J.C. Latham. They spent it on Skoronski last year. They went out and got Tyler Boyd, who sat in free agency for a couple of months, but is connected to Callahan, who came over from Cincinnati. They paid Calvin Ridley. Hopkins is still there. They traded for L'Jarius Sneed. They drafted Tavondre Sweat. They're doing things to build the roster up different than how they used to. Of course, you just brought up Spears and Tony Pollard. They're putting all the pieces around Will Levis to play the best he possibly can. I got him sitting at quarterback 16 in Dynasty. Do you know offhand where he's at in the RosterWatch Dynasty rankings, Trashman? Because I feel like
no, I'll take a look.
I feel like he's in a weird area that, we had conversations when we were in Detroit with the player profiler team about Levis and Dynasty, and there was guys that were talking about him being around the 11-12 area, and I thought I was, a little ahead of a consensus at QB 16. And I will say I don't consume a lot of other people's Dynasty rankings outside of my own and the RosterWatch Dynasty rankings because I think that's the only ones that should be consumed. But doing price checks and just feeling other people out, that was one thing that I thought was kind of random. Was some people at that house had him at 22, 23 in the Baker Mayfield area, and some people kind of discussed him with like Dak and Jordan Love.
Yeah, I mean, I admittedly am not as bullish on Levis as you and Alex have. Oh, I guess you more so than Alex. Yeah. Although Alex does love him, to some degree. Let me take a look. Are you talking about one quarterback or super flex?
Super flex.
take a look here.
I just feel like they've done enough to surround him with exactly what's needed. They've done everything they possibly can. And I've had this conversation with a number of my patrons over at the draftrankings.com, and they've said, oh, I went out and acquired, 3 shares of Levis, and I hope this is the year. And I'm like, I hope it is too, because this is it. This is the one opportunity. Because if this Tennessee team goes, 4-13, they're going to be looking back in the eyes of a quarterback. Dak will be hitting the line. I don't think Jordan Love will make it to contract negotiations next spring, but I think this is the one opportunity for Levis, and they've surrounded him with enough talent to succeed and to push past what everyone's expecting, which is a mediocre quarterback. I think he has enough arm talent, as Alex put it, the golden arm or the golden goose, to kind of vault himself into the top 10 eventually. You find that ranking?
We don't have them ranked by quarterback, like which quarterback they are.
Okay.
Just a general consensus.
General consensus. Who's he around? Can you give some names that he's around for you in the top 250?
Some names he's around. Other quarterbacks.
Sure.
Okay. Geno Smith.
Okay.
Russell Wilson, though, I probably need to alter that. Justin Fields, Brock Purdy, Deshaun Watson. Closest to Deshaun Watson and Justin Fields.
All right, so I don't think we're too far off. I have him kind of near Brock Purdy as well as Deshaun Watson, just a little bit lower. So I don't think we're too far off. Let's move on to number 5 on the bye. Your third bye. Your first two were Keenan Allen and Tai Spears.
My third, and it's somebody who I touched on the last podcast too, and that's Zeke Elliott. I just can't reiterate enough, just the position that he's in, being in the same running back group with guys like Royce Freeman, and Deuce Vaughn, who, he has a skill set. And Rico Dowdle, who is flashed here and there, but there's nobody there to really, I think, challenge Zeke as a lead back there and one of the most prolific offenses in the league. It's just easy money there with Zeke. I think he's going to get higher and higher in the rankings as the offseason wears on. But if you have an earlier draft, if you're doing these best ball drafts, to get Zeke where you can. If for nothing else, the touchdown equity. I see double-digit touchdowns for Zeke this season.
I like that. That's one thing that people generally in Dynasty will tell you, like, I got to stay away from these old guys. But Zeke is one of the interesting ones that we've literally seen this team, this franchise, this staff lean into a guy like this. And we know Zeke can still get it down there into the 10. And we think Zeke can still work, in the middle of the field, and there's really not a lot on this roster to begin with at the running back position. So I don't really know what they're foreseeing, but I referenced the trade finder tool over at Player Profiler just a minute ago. Some of the trades that have gone through the last couple of days, we talked about the depth of rookie drafts in the third, late second, early third, late third kind of area where the value can kind of fall off. Some of the trades that have gone through, the 2.10 in a Superflex tight end premium league, 2.10 for Zeke Elliott. Another one is 2 QB tight end premium, the 4.01, the 4.11 for Zeke Elliott straight up. 2 quarterback standard scoring, 2025 second round pick. That's a little steep for me. 2025 second round pick for a Zeke. 4th round in 2025, 4.12 in 2024. So it's kind of the area you're talking about. Is like, would you rather draft and wait for a Bucky Irving to get an opportunity with the Buccaneers, or take the Zeke that you can probably plug in as your RB3, potentially RB2 in Dynasty? Hopefully he's not your RB2. Hopefully you have a little more depth in that. But if he's your RB3, RB4 on your dynasty team, I think that's a good value if you can get him for that third. And as you can see here, multiple fourth round picks. I'm going to go to the tight end position, and I'm going to go to Michael Mayer because a lot of people are pushing against Michael Mayer right now because of the acquisition of Brock Bowers. And I disagree with it. We know what Michael Mayer is. Michael Mayer is an elite tight end prospect out of Notre Dame. He won the motherfucking Mackey Award for a reason, and he was a second-round pick for a reason. And so quick do we turn on these tight ends that don't break out as rookies. It doesn't happen every single year. We got the 1,000-yard season out of Pitts. We've seen some nice things out of Laporta and Kincaid. And then they go and get Brock Bowers. But what do we know about some of these players like Brock Bowers? That they're going to play 60, 70, 80% of the time in the slot. And you also have this guy named Devontae Adams in that offense, among others that are respected like Jacoby Myers. Now, I'm a little hesitant on the Aiden O'Connell thing to know if he can get the ball out to all these guys. Gardner Minshew's also there. We'll see what happens. Byron will be at that training camp in fall, and we'll see kind of what it all looks like. But I have a good feeling about Michael Mayer continuing to just stay a value and stay worth. He's not even 23 years old yet. And people are already, they're replacing him with Bowers. I don't think that's quite how that works.
Well, it's kind of a new phenomenon to have a young tight end or a rookie tight end, produce in fantasy. Yeah. Byron did a study on this. I use that term maybe a little loosely, but he did some work on this a few years ago, and he found that it wasn't really until year 3 that most tight ends kind of really step, into their own fantasy wise. It's kind of a rarity that you have a rookie tight end do a lot. So yeah, I think people who are kind of selling on, some of these really productive, at least in college, tight ends with a pedigree before, they can really come into their own. I think it's a misstep on a lot of these occasions.
All right. What do you got for number 4 and I think it'll be number 7 overall?
I got Christian Kirk.
Ooh, okay.
Jacksonville. I mean, 2 of his biggest competition are on other teams. Well, one is on another team right now. But Zay Jones is gone. Ridley. We got the rookie in Browns. We didn't really even love him. We didn't love him until all these other Jaguar receivers left. So if you don't love Thomas, and we do love and have seen Christian Kirk be the number 1 receiver there in Jacksonville, with Calvin Ridley on the opposite side of the field, I think a lot of people are sleeping on Kirk this season, and what's as considerably a better offense than they had last year.
I think that might be my favorite one from the show today, because when you bring it back to like earlier this past season, the model of consistency we saw to Kirk at times, whether it was from a target perspective or a reception perspective or touchdowns, even he only had 3 of them, but they were kind of bunched all together in the early middle part of the season with Ridley on the team, with Evan Ingram getting output. I don't love Brian Thomas. Me and Alex I don't remember how high you had him, but we both kind of looked at him as like a developmental guy after the combine. And I think he fits decent. I don't think he fits as well as he would have in a Dallas and Cincinnati and stuff like that. There's upside there downfield. They didn't address the offensive line as much as I would have hoped. And Gabe Davis kind of feels redundant with a Brian Thomas, whereas Kirk feels like he's going to be that, whether you want to call him the Keenan Allen of the offense, if you're thinking about what the Chargers used to look like with Mike Williams on the outside. And
he's a Keenan Allen that can stretch the field.
Yeah, like you think about the Chargers, they had Mike Williams, who's that big outside guy, and you can look at that as your Gabe Davis. You got your Keenan Allen, who's Christian Kirk, and then your speed guy, who at times, in LA it was whatever it was, whether it was Joe Reed or Jalen Guyton, or now it's Darius, like just a bunch of just donkeys. And yeah, it's a better version of that with Brian Thomas now, but Kirk is teed up to do exactly that, take over that Keenan Allen role. Trashman, we've got 7 guys in the books. We're going to do one more. I want you to take them out on this 8th one, but I want everybody to please remember to click that like button. Please click subscribe. And if you're listening on podcast, wherever you're listening, please leave 5 stars and a review if you can. Trashman, 8 buys in Dynasty Fantasy Football that people need to make right now. I think Christian Kirk's a pretty strong one. Number 8, take us out. What do you got?
Yeah, maybe should have ended on that one, but Terry McLaurin is the last guy I'm considering to buy. Now, Curtis Samuel's gone. Sam Howell gets another year, but then even if he's not under center, you got an upstart quarterback who can air it out, and Jalen. And so I feel like McLaurin, it's wheels up for him this season. No more Logan Thomas. I know they brought Zach Ertz in, but Zach Ertz is fading. They got Sinnott in there, but again, I think it's going to I don't think it's going to be an immediate immediate production for Sinnott. I think generally speaking, tight ends need time to develop in the NFL. I feel like McLaurin is the main cog in that offense, the linchpin.
5 seasons over 900 yards, and he made it through the gauntlet. He made it through the Case Keenums, the Dwayne Haskins, the Colt McCoys, the Sam Howells, the Jacoby Brissetts, and Terry McLaurin now has his king in Jaden Daniels. 6th straight 900-yard season incoming for Terry McLaurin.